Moving to the next point in the objectives of organizing, we talk about authority and responsibility relationship. When we talk about authority and responsibility relationship, then we are talking about two terms which moves parallelly, simultaneously together. Because if a person is made responsible for anything, then he must also be authorized. Until unless he is authorized, he is having the decision making power, he cannot make the things accomplished. He cannot accomplish the objectives of the enterprise. So now let's know how authority and responsibility move parallelly together and how they are the basic objectives of organizing. Authority is the power to make decisions, giving orders and enforce obedience. Responsibility, on the other hand, is the obligation to answer for one's action and to complete assigned tasks. It is important to note that authority and responsibility are often intervened, and one cannot exist without the other. So, as it is clear from the lines that authority means decision making power to give instructions, to give order to the subordinates or employees that what function they have to perform, and at the same time responsibility means that you are answerable for any particular task. If the task has been not done completely, or if there is any kind of mistake or defect found in that particular task, then you will be held answerable. You have to answer for that. So authority and responsibility move parallel together, and they cannot exist without each other. If I think that in my enterprise only authority should exist and the one should be only authorized to make the decisions, he is having decision making power, he can give instructions to the employees, he can make the employees tell that what they have to do. No, we should also have responsibility at that same time, so that we can have the person answerable also if we found any kind of defect or any kind of problem exists within the enterprise or in the working environment of the enterprise. So this was what is meant by authority and responsibility relationship. Moving to the next point, human material aspect. Organization deals with the human and material factors in business. Now, when I talk about human and material factors, then I'm talking about both men and machines. Men and machines have to be managed parallelly, because machines are not running on their own, they are run by the human. And if humans are not well technically sound, or we are not having a good manpower with us, then machines cannot run. So organizing is also related, or the objective of organizing is also to have a human material aspect, which means that both men and machines should be kept in such a order that they are working very well. All the products, all the output which has been performed, it has been performed as per the appropriate requirement. So this is what is meant by human material aspect. Human element is the most important element in an organization. To accomplish the task of building up a sound organization, it is essential to prepare an outline of the organization which is logical and simple. Right, if you want your employees to do the best, you want maximum output out of them, then what you have to do? You have to prepare an outline. Outline in the organization means that you must have a blueprint, that what your employees have to perform and how they have to perform, which machines are to be used, which input is to be used, from where they will be getting production material, from where they will be getting other resources which are required for production. The manager should then try to fit in suitable men. Henry Fuel says in this connection, see that human and material organizations are suitable and ensure material and human order. As Fuel has said clearly in his lines that if human and material, both the things are not in order, then it will be very tough for human to run the material or to run the machine. So it is the responsibility of an enterprise, and under enterprise it is the responsibility of organizing functions that both human and material should be in a systematic order, so that we can have maximum output out of the given material machines, and human can also work properly on those particular machines, because if they are not technically sound, if the machines are not updated, then it will be leading us to low production, it will be making us high cost, our production cost will be going high due to low production. So the next objective of organizing is making human material aspect. Now moving to the next topic, that is types of organization. When I talk about types of organization, then I'm talking about the environment or the nature which exists in an organization, because every organization couldn't provide the same environmental to the employees, the same working culture, the same rules, the same policies, same procedures. They vary organization to organization. Now, it depends upon the enterprise that which type of organizational setup you are selecting or you are choosing. Because if your organizational setup is not appropriate up to mark and it is not well managed, then it will be very tough for the enterprise and for the employees to do job over there. It will be very tough. They will not able to understand that what they have to do, how they have to do, when they have to do, whom they have to report, from whom they have to receive the instructions. So moving to this point, types of organization. When we talk about types of organization, they can be categorized into two parts: formal organization and informal organization. As the word itself speaks, formal organization means an organization where the relationships, where the relation among the employees are totally formal. They are connected into an hierarchy. They are connected in such a manner that they know that who is their superior and who is their subordinate, who is their reporting boss, and who, from whom they have to collect the instructions. So formal organization is basically a complete organization with much rules and regulations, much policies, and a disciplined organization. There they have a list of rules, there they have a list of policies which are to be followed by the employees, and if employee violated them, then they will be having some punishment policies also. Let's move to the formal organization. In every enterprise, there are certain rules and organization procedures that establish work relationship among the employees. Very correct. Because until unless you are having rules, policies and procedures for employees, then making connection between them is a very tough task. So to make the connections, to make the employer, or we can say management relationship strong, we must have a strong bond among them. Because if that particular bond does not exist, then it becomes very tough for an enterprise to survive. So formal organization have this thing into their working. Effectively, all of this is done through a formal organization. Notably, the management is responsible for designing the formal organization in such a way that it specifies a clear boundary of authority and responsibility. Coupled with systematic coordination among various activities, it ensures achievement of organizational goals. Yes, the informal organization, the workers, the employees are very well known with their authority and responsible area. We are having we know our boundaries that among which we have to work, and if we are crossing those boundaries, it will be really very problematic for us. So formal organization, what it does, it makes a structure of sound policies, it makes a structure of sound guidelines which has been issued to the employees that they have to work according to that only, and the employees are also very well known or aware about their roles and responsibilities and authority they have for making decisions. Correct? So in conclusion, we can say that formal organization is an organization which have a set of rules, policies, procedures and guidelines, and their employees are connected or tied in a hierarchical manner, knowing their authority and responsibility. Moving to the next. When we talk about the advantages of formal organization, every setup, if I talk about every working culture, every environment have some pros or cons. Because if I say that any particular setup is a perfect one, sorry, it's not like that. We have some plus and minus in every type of setup. So let's talk about the advantages of formal organization. The formal organization clearly outlines the relationship among employees, hence it becomes easier to track responsibilities. Very correct. Because if the employees are knowing that where they stand right now, what is their role, who is their superior and who is their subordinate, in such a manner, it's very tough, or we can say it's very easy for employees to work on it. They can work easily because they know that how their relationship exists and whom they have to give the instructions and from whom they have to receive the instructions. So the first advantage of formal organization is that employees are very well familiar with their relationship among themselves. Second, an established chain of commands maintains the unity of command. Unity of command, as we have studied in the 14 principles of management, unity of command. Unity of command means that employees should receive command from one single superior. If we are having many superiors giving commands to the employees, then it becomes very tough for the employees to perform their task, because if they are not able to understand or they are not able to understand that to whom they have to follow. Many people are giving them command, which instruction they have to follow, and this is a very important part, because receiving instructions and to work on that is really very tough. But in case if they are not clear, but if your enterprise organization is having a clear-cut policy regarding this, then it is very easy for employees to work, and it is an advantage of organizing, because when we have organizing implemented in our enterprise, it tells us about our just superior from whom we have to receive the instruction. Point 3 says, as the duties of each member is clearly defined, there is no ambiguity, means no confusion or confusion in individual roles whatsoever. Further, there is no duplication of efforts which eliminates any wastage. Yes, when you know your work, what you have to do, from whom you have to receive the instructions, for whom you have to perform, then duplication of work is totally avoided. And when the work is not duplicated, when we work and all the efforts are moved in a single direction, then it becomes very easy for an enterprise to avoid wastage, and the wastage is totally eliminated. Because if we are having wastage of resources in an enterprise, then it will be leading to losses to the enterprise. Our enterprise will be facing losses because resources are wasted. So what organizing does? Organizing tells us a clear picture between to the employees that what work they have to perform and how they have to perform to avoid duplicacy of efforts. Next point says, in a formal organization, there is a clear definition of rules and procedures, right? This means that behaviors and relationships among the members are predictable. Consequently, there is stability and no chaos existing in the enterprise. When the things are very clear, when the rules, guidelines and procedures are very clear to the employees, then the chances of ambiguity are totally zero. We do not have any kind of confusion, because employees are knowing what they have to do and how they have to do. Because if we do not have a set of rules and regulations, a set of guidelines, then it is really very tough for an employee to understand that how he has to perform that particular work. So this point says this only, that there is stability, employees are stable for the enterprise, and no chaos. No chaos means that things are not haphazard. Things are arranged in a systematic manner and known to each employee of that particular enterprise that who is their direct reporting officer. Otherwise, it is very tough. Next is, finally, it leads to the achievement of organizational goals and objectives. This is because there exists systematic and well thought out work culture and relationship. And these all points, if I talk about unity of command, if I talk about clear relationship among employees, if I talk about clear authority and responsibility relationships, if I talk about superior and subordinate relationship, when these things exist in an organization, when these things exist in an enterprise, then there is no chance of losses, and we easily achieve our organizational goals and objectives. So organizing help us in achieving and in accomplishing the goals and objectives of an enterprise. So now, as I have earlier said, everything have two faces, disadvantages and advantages. So we have discussed the advantages, but let's have an eye on disadvantages also. Decision making is slow in a formal organization, correct, because decisions passes a number of stages. That's why decision making a little delayed, or we can say slow in a formal organization. It is important to realize that any organizational need has to flow through the respective chain of command before being addressed, correct. Any decision which has to be taken, it is addressed when it passes through all the stages which are being designed. So passing from one stage to another stage to another, it makes delay in decision making. So this is one of the disadvantages of formal organization. Formal organization is very rigid, yeah, they are having fixed norms, they are having fixed rules and regulations, so it is not very easy to change the things in formal organization. Formal organization avoid changes because they have a set of rules and regulations fixed, and that particular set has to be followed. This means that there prevails perfect discipline coupled with no deviations from the procedures. Hence, this can lead to low recognition of talent. Now, when you does not deviate from what you have decided or from what your policies or procedures are, so sometimes it lead to that we are not able to find out that particular talent which exists in our organization. Because if I talk about talent, then I am talking about the qualities of human resource or the qualities which are present in an employee. Why? Because we are having a decided set of procedures, guidelines, and if any particular person is responsible for making decision or for making policy for any particular department, then that particular job will be done by him only. We cannot change or we cannot deviate from that person to another, which leads to the hidden talent in other person never come up, and that particular thing what goes on with the previous one lead to like that only. Lastly, the formal organization does not take into account the social nature of humans, as it talks about only structure and work. Interestingly, we cannot eliminate this integral part of our nature. Hence, it does not entirely displace the functioning of the organization. As I have said earlier also, formal organization means an organization which is totally rigid, fixed into a framework of its rules and regulations, but at the same time they are totally ignoring the human nature, and it's human nature that we cannot be fixed or we cannot stuck to one particular thing only. We have to move here and there. We should talk to each other, but if we are not having this thing, then consequently we are missing or losing some of our important part of management. One of the important part of management is that you have to consider or you have to take parallelly the human nature which is being required. Until unless we have a little freedom to talk to someone, until unless we are free to move from one place to another, we cannot show off our complete talent. We will be totally, dumb, and we will not able to make any relationship when we are not talking to anyone. Moving to the next, informal organization. As the word itself speaks, when we talk about informal organization, then I'm talking about an enterprise wherein we are having less rules and regulations. It is not so much rigid as in case of formal organization. Things can be deviated. We can move from one thing to another, and at the same time we can also have changes in our policies. Rules and regulations can be changed, and the employees are also bonded with some informal relationship also. They are not only tied with that hierarchical order or superior subordinate relationship, they are also having some informal relationship. We can say sometimes they are having a get together, sometimes they are sitting together and having a cup of tea. So let's move to informal organization. It's easy to understand that if we interact with certain people regularly, we tend to more informal with them, right? When we come closer, or when we come in relationship with few people, as the time passes, we become informal. We does not remain the same formal, things. We become a little bit informal. This is because we develop interpersonal relationships with them, which are not based solely on work purposes. Yes, because our relationship is not totally limited to the enterprise hierarchical order or to the enterprise connections. We become informal and we have a talk that we can say other than the organizational talks. Rather, these relationships might arise because of shared interest, like you get to know that your colleagues like the same football club of which you are a fan of. So these are the things which we informally talk about. We informally talk about our area of interest, our choice, our hobbies, like that. But in formal organization, we are missing this. In informal organization, we have space for all these things, that getting informal or having some extra or some relationship with our employees or colleagues other than organizational relationship. As a matter of fact, informal organization arises out of the formal organization. This is because when people frequently contact each other, we cannot force them into a rigid and completely formal structure. Instead, they bond over common interest and form groups based upon friendship and social interaction. Informal organizations, we cannot say that they are particularly some type of enterprise. When we are having a formal setup under that only when people interact with each other, when people sit with each other, when people have some types of get together, informal relationships get arised. We have informal relationships. We talk about something different than organization. We talk about something other than enterprise goals and objectives. So in this way, informal organization comes out of formal organization only. We are not having a separate setup for this. When we regularly meet each other, when we sit with each other, when we are having some extra talks of our area of interest, of our hobbies, then informal organization come up or arises. Unlike formal organization, informal organization is fluid and there are no written or predefined rules for it. Essentially, it is a complex web of social relationships among members which are born spontaneously. Further, unlike the formal organization, it cannot be forced or controlled by the management. When we are connected through an informal organization, then we are not having a set of rules and regulations. We does not follow any particular policies or procedures. We have a talk, we have a connect, we have a chat among ourselves wherein we are talking about something different, which is not at all related with organizational objectives or organizational work. Informal organization come up when people meet together frequently, and informal organization does not require any particular platform. They become spontaneously. Spontaneously means when two people meet and they come up with same choices, same hobbies, then informal relationship can be built up, right? So informal organization does not require any particular policies or any particular platform. They are not, and even though they cannot be controlled by the management, they cannot be controlled by the management because it's human nature. When we will be having two people sitting together, working together, then they will be talking to each other and they will be having some or other type of connects among them after few days or after few sittings. Moving to the next point. Also, the standards of behavior evolve from group norms and not predefined rules and norms. Lastly, as there are no defined structures or lines of communication, the interaction can be completely random, and independent lines of communication tend to emerge in informal organization. Informal organization does not have a set of defined structure. We are having just common talks, we are having just conversations of our own area of interest, and we are not bounded with any line of boundary. We are free to talk, we are free to sit together, we are free to have parties, or we are free to select the person of our choice to make informal terms that lead to informal organization. Informal organization are not at all bonded with any kind of lines of boundaries, or informal organization does not have a predefined structure. It is spontaneously built. It does not require any platform, or it does not require any connections which are tied up in a structural manner. Next, we come to advantages of informal organization. As we have discussed advantages and disadvantages of formal organization, and I have earlier said also, everything have two facets, or we can say plus or minus, or we can say pros and cons. Moving to the advantages of informal organization. In this type of organization, communication does not need to follow the defined chain. Defined chain here means hierarchical order. We can skip our middle level and approach to top level, or top level can skip the middle level and approach to lower level. Instead, it can flow through various routes. This implies that communication in an informal organization is much faster related to formal organization, right? When the things move through an informal channel, or we can say informal chain, they move faster. Why? Because we are not bonded with some formal rules, or we are not bonded with some formal hierarchical manner that first we have to report to that particular person, then that particular person will be taking my information to another senior boss. In this manner, it becomes delay. Communication becomes delay. Passing of information also becomes delay. So, to an informal organization, it does not happen. Communication becomes more faster. Things move to the top level or lower level at a more faster pace, or at a more faster rate. Second, Again, humans are social animals. The needs to socialize exist deep within our existence. The informal organization ensure that the socialization within the enterprise. Consequently, members experience the sense of belongingness and job satisfaction. As we are human beings known as social beings, we want someone to talk. We cannot be totally aloof. We cannot sit as an individual. We need someone to interact, to communicate. So in this sense only, this thing exists within us. It is inculcated within us since our birth, because we are social beings. So in informal organization promotes this thing. Informal organization provides an opportunity. Informal organization provides a base for making informal connections or informal relationship. Members, and with these type of relationships, when members are having someone to talk, someone to discuss, someone to share their feelings, in this what happens, they are more satisfied with their job and they have a sense of belongingness towards the enterprise. Because if you are free to talk to anyone, if you are free to discuss your ideas, your concept with someone else, then the sense of belongingness becomes more stronger than if you are sitting totally aloof, or you are totally, we can say disconnected, or you are totally sit straight away from another person's. Informal organization, getting true feedbacks and reactions is not easy. Hence, in informal organization, various limitations of formal organization is covered up. Now, if I talk about feedbacks, then when we are sitting informally, when we are discussing the things informally, then what we speak is more correct, more true than what we speak in a formal manner. Because when I speaking in an informal setting, or when I speaking in an informal group, then what I speak is that real truth which is within me, which is internally within me. But when the things are asked in a formal manner, when I have to give feedback on papers and all, then sometimes it happens that I must get deviated. Things must get changed. I am not able to give that true feedback which is being required. And in an informal talk, in an informal setup, we have this thing. So this is point 3. Now, when I talk about disadvantages of informal organization, the first point says, the informal organization is random and can result in the spread of rumors. Yeah, it happens. When we are having gossips, when we are sitting together and having gossips, then it can lead to rumors also. We can have something which is not real, but the information passes from one person to another, from another person to another. In this manner, it totally gets spread apart. Again, we cannot manage and control informal organizations. Consequently, this may result in chaos within the enterprise. Yes, when you are not having any particular set of rules and policies, when you are not having a particular set of guidelines, then it will be very tough for the management to control that particular organization. So, for that, we must have a set of rules, policies, guidelines, procedures, which will be followed by the employees. Because if you are not having any such set of rules and regulations, then how you can control your enterprise, how management will be controlling the enterprise, and how employees will be working. They will be working as per their own convenience. What they feel like, they will be doing that. When they want to do work, they will be doing the work. Otherwise, they will be totally sitting idle. It is important to realize that it is not possible to effect changes and grow without the support of the informal organization. This can work in both ways, for growth or decline of the enterprise. Now, when you think that human relations or social relations or informal relations are very much required in an organization, then you have to think about their consequences also. Informal relationship, informal organization can have both the aspects. They can be good or they can be bad for the enterprise. So it depends upon the management that how it thinks about the consequences, because we have to be well prepared regarding the consequences of informal organization, because informally people are connected more closely, more strongly than in a formal manner. Moving to the next point. To point out again, informal organization conforms to group standards and behaviors. If such behaviors are against the organizational interests, they can eventually lead to disruption of the organization, because when people get connected, when people have joined together in an informal manner, then they can sometimes go against the organizational objectives also. So in this manner, the enterprise or the management must know that how and in which direction the informal relations are working. Are they going towards the achievement or accomplishment of organizational goals and objectives, or they are going opposite to it? So this is the duty of an enterprise, to keep checking about those informal relationships. Now, when I talk about disadvantages, here are the three main points what we have discussed. Now, the next important topic for today is delegation of authority. As I have talked earlier also, when I talk about delegation of authority, I am talking about giving my authority to some of my subordinates, providing my authority to some of my subordinates. A manager alone cannot perform all the tasks assigned to them, right? A single person cannot perform all the tasks assigned to them. He needs someone who can hold his task, who can work on his task and provide results to the enterprise or organization. In order to meet the targets, the manager should delegate authority. Yes, if you want that you should meet the targets, you should achieve the standards, then you have to delegate your authority. Delegation of authority means division of authority and power downwards to the subordinate. You have to divide your authority, you have to divide your decision making power to your subordinates also, because if you have not divided this power, if you have not delegated this power, then it will be very tough for a single person to make all the decisions or to complete all the assigned tasks. So to avoid this thing, manager should divide and delegate his authority to his subordinates. Delegation is about entrusting someone else to do parts of your job. Delegation of authority can be defined as subdivision and sub-allocation of powers to the subordinates in order to achieve effective results. Delegation does not mean that you are totally free and you have, diverted your power to someone else. Delegation means that to give or to subdivide your authorities, to subdivide your power to your subordinate, so that they will be also having some percentage of your decision making power, which will lead or which will make your work easy, because all the tasks cannot be accomplished by a single manager. So a manager should subdivide or delegate some of his authorities to its subordinates, which are required for the accomplishment of that particular task, for doing that particular task or job which the authority is required. That particular authority can be subdivided to your subordinates. Moving to the next. Now, these are the elements of delegation which exist. Basically, we have, if I talk about delegation, then we have two basic elements. Number one, authority, and number two, responsibility. As I have told earlier also, authority and responsibility moves parallelly. They move parallel together. If I talk about that in my enterprise, only authority should exist, it is not possible. If I talk about in my enterprise, only responsibility should exist, it is not possible, because both the things move or both the things exist parallelly in an enterprise, because they both are required for the accomplishment of tasks. They both are required. If you are making a person authorized, then you have to make the person responsible also for that particular task. So they both move parallelly together in an enterprise. But we have to check that how they both are moving and whether they both are moving in the same direction for achieving organizational objectives or goals. In context of business organization, authority can be defined as the power and right of a person to use and allocate their resources efficiently, to take decisions and to give orders so as to achieve the organizational objectives. When I talk about authority, authority is basically, in single line we can say, decision making power. A power through which you can give instructions, you can give orders, or you can take decisions related to any particular job or task. Because if the person is not authorized to take decisions, then he or she will not be able to perform or accomplish any particular task or job assigned to him. Because in the course of accomplishing the task or job, it comes many times that we have to take various decisions, and if this decision making power does not exist or it's totally absent, then the person will not be able to make its job done or its work done. All people who have authority should know what is the scope of their authority is, and they shouldn't misuse it. Yes, authority once given should not be misused, and the person who is authorized for particular task or who has been given the authority must know its line of boundaries, that why and up till what extent he is authorized for making the decision. Because if you are misusing it, then they will be leading to further consequences. Authority is the right to give commands, orders, and get the things done. The top level management has greatest authority. Correct. When we talk about top level management, then it is that layer of management which is full of authority, which is having total decision making power. If they want to bring any kind of changes, they can do that. If they want to give instructions to anyone, they want to give command to anyone, they want to give order to anyone, then they are authorized. They can make any changes in the organization, or they can also take various decisions which are required for the benefit of the enterprise. Second point says authority always flows from top to bottom. Yes, because authority or decision making power is the most with top level. It does not have much with lower level. So it moves from top level to lower level. It explains how a superior gets work done from a subordinate by clearly explaining what is expected of him and how he should go about it. Correct. Because when we are having clear authority lines, then people also know that how they have to get the work done by their subordinates and what is being required to be done from their subordinates. Because if subordinates are also not easily understanding the things, then it becomes tough for the enterprise to work or to perform the task. Authority should be accompanied with an equal amount of responsibility, because as I have said, authority and responsibility moves parallelly together. So if the person is authorized, then he must also be responsible. Only authority will not work, only responsibility will not work. If you are making someone authorized, then you have to make that person responsible also for that particular job or task. Delegating the authority to someone else doesn't imply escaping from accountability. Accountability still rests with the person having the utmost authority. Accountability means answerable. When I talk about accountability, then I'm talking about answerable. If you have delegated your authority to your subordinate, it doesn't mean that you are escaped from your accountability. No, you are still accountable for that particular task. That's why this has been not performed, why we are not able to accomplish or get that job done. So you have to keep this thing in mind, whether you have delegated your authority, but accountability moves with you only. Moving to the next point, that is responsibility. When I talk about responsibility, then I simply talk about duty. A duty which a person has to perform, or that particular task for which you are responsible for, that is responsibility. It is the duty of the person to complete the task assigned to him. A person who is given the responsibility should ensure that he accomplishes the task assigned to him. If the task for which he was held responsible are not completed, then he should not give explanations or excuses. Because when you are made responsible for any particular task, and if that particular task is not being done, then you cannot give any lame excuse, or your excuses will not work out. So when you are made responsible for completion of any particular task, you must take your responsibility, or we can say you must take the onus of doing that particular task for which you are made responsible for. Because if you have not completed that particular task, then none of your excuses will work, and you will be having further bad consequences. So to avoid this thing, a person, if made responsible for any particular task, he or she must complete his task very well or in a perfect manner. Responsibility without adequate authority leads to discontent and dissatisfaction among the person. Yes, because in the duration of fulfilling your responsibility, you may require sometimes that you have to take some decisions, you have to give some orders or instructions to your subordinates or employees. But in that case, if you are not having authority, then it becomes a matter of discontentment or dissatisfaction among the person. So if the person is made responsible, then that particular person must be given up with authority, so that in duration or in the meanwhile, if you require any kind of decision making, then it can be done. Otherwise, that person will be only dissatisfied and he will be not able to complete his or task in a perfect manner. Responsibility flows from bottom to top. Yes, because as the instructions are giving from top to bottom, the people in the lower level becomes more responsible. So responsibility flows from bottom to top. The middle level and lower level management holds more responsibility. The person held responsible for a job is answerable for it. If he performs the task assigned as expected, he is bound for praises. While if he doesn't accomplish task assigned as expected, then also he is answerable for that. So as I have said, responsibility flows from bottom to top. So in this manner, the people at the middle level and the people at the lower level are the most responsible peoples for any particular task. And if any person has been made responsible for any particular job or task, then it is his or her responsibility to perform that task in a perfect or in a best manner. Because if the task has not been done, then he is answerable, and if the task has been done perfectly, then also he is responsible, or he will be getting praises and credits by the management. So if you are made responsible for any particular task, then you have to make your task, fulfill, complete your task in that particular expected manner which is expected from you. So this is what is about authority and responsibility. Moving to the next point, accountability. When I talk about accountability, it is a little bit variation from responsibility and authority. Accountability basically means that part, or accountability basically means that back which makes you accountable for any particular task or job. When you are made accountable for any particular task and job, then it says that you are held responsible for that particular performance. If the performance is done in a well manner, then it's good, and if the performance is not done in that particular manner, then also you will be answerable. It means giving explanations for any variance in the actual performance from the expectation set. Accountability cannot be delegated. For example, I have quoted one example also here. If A is given a task with sufficient authority, when we talk about accountability, then we are talking about that you are responsible for the work which has to be done as per the standard, or we have not matched our standard as per the actual what has been result out. So accountability cannot be delegated. Never. If a person has delegated his authority, it doesn't mean that the person is escaped from accountability. No, he or she is held liable. He is accountable for that particular task, because accountability cannot be ever delegated. I have made this thing very clear from this example. For example, if A is given a task with sufficient authority and A delegates this task to B and asks him to ensure that task is done well, responsibility rests with B, but accountability still rests with A. Suppose you have given any piece of work and you delegate that piece of work to Mr. X, then it doesn't mean that you have delegated your accountability. No, you have made Mr. B only responsible for the completion of the task, but accountability still lies with you only. The top level management is most accountable. Being accountable means being innovative, as the person will think beyond his scope of job. Accountability in short means being answerable for the end result. Accountability can't be escaped. It arises from responsibility. So it's very clear that accountability means that what the output or what the results are, why so. If good, then you are having praises, but if bad, then at the same time you are answerable for that also. So accountability arises, generates from responsibility. Now it depends upon you that how you perform the task. If you perform the task very well, then it's good, and if you does not perform the task well, then again you will be answerable for the same. So this is what is accountability. Moving to the next point, steps in delegation of authority. When a superior delegates his authority to its junior or subordinates, it cannot be delegated in a random manner, or it cannot be delegated spontaneously or randomly. What we have to do? We have to follow some steps, or we have to follow a process. Delegation of authority is the base of superior-subordinate relationship. It involves following steps. Number one, assignment of duties. First of all, what you have to do is you have to give duties, or you have to assign duties to your subordinates that this task is being performed by you. The delegator first tries to define the task and duties to the subordinate. He also has to define the result expected from the subordinates. Clarity of duty as well as result expected has to be the first steps in delegation. When you are delegating your authority, or you are giving your authority to a subordinate, then first of all, what you have to do is you have to make the duties very clear to them, and also the expected results, what you expect from them. Because if the subordinates are not knowing about their duties or the job or what they have to do, then they will be not giving you appropriate results. So to avoid this thing, to avoid this chaos, what you have to do is first of all assign the duties properly to the subordinates, then go for second step. Second step says granting of authority. Now it comes to granting of authority, means subdivision of authority. Subdivision of authority takes place when a superior divides and shares his authority with the subordinates. Yes, when you are dividing your authority, when you are giving your authority to your subordinates, then we can say it's granting of authority. Because until unless you divide or you give your authority to your subordinates, he will be not having that decision making power which is being required. So next step is granting authority. It is for this reason every subordinate should be given enough independence to carry the task given to him by his superiors, because if independence does not exist, then it becomes very tough for an employee to work in a, you can say, very closed environment, because everyone requires some space, some independence or some freedom to work out. Because sometimes you have to take small decisions, sometimes you have to give order or instructions to your subordinates, but if you are closely pegged into some rules and regulations or policies, then it becomes very tough to perform the task or to get the job done. Then the managers at all levels delegate authority and power which is attached to their job positions. As per the job positions, authority is provided, and according to that only they delegate authority to their subordinates. The subdivision of power is very important to get effective results. Yes, if the power is not subdivided, if the authority is not delegated, then it becomes very tough to get those expected results which should meet your standards. Because if actual performance is not meeting the standard performance, then we should know that what is the reason of deviation, and not proper delegation of authority can also be one of the reasons of deviation between actual results and standards. So to avoid this deviation, we must delegate the authority properly. Step 3 says creating responsibility and accountability. But again, I told you, accountability helps only with that a person who is authorized. You are never escape from accountability if you delegate your authority. Moving to it, the delegation process does not end once powers are granted to the subordinates. Once you have given the powers to your subordinate, it doesn't mean that delegation has been done. They at the same time have to be obligatory towards the duties assigned to them. Responsibility is said to be factor or obligation of an individual to carry out his duties in best of his ability as per the direction of superior. When you are made responsible for any task, then it is expected from you that you will be carrying out your duties in that best manner which as you have been directed by your superiors. So when a person is responsible, then at that same time he also follow that accountability. At the same time, responsibility is absolute and cannot be shifted. Yes, you cannot shift your responsibility from one person to another. Accountability, on the other hand, is the obligation of the individual to carry out his duties as per the standards of performance. Means the duties has to be done as per the standards set, as per the standards which we have laid down, because standards are the parameters for measuring the actual performance. Until unless an enterprise have some standards set, actual performance cannot be met out. And actual performance, standard performance, and the deviation between the two tells us about that whether the person has properly performed his duties, the accountability, the responsibility, and the authority has been done properly or not. Therefore, it is said that authority is delegated, responsibility is created, and accountability is imposed. Clear? Three words we have to understand over here. When we talk about authority, it is always delegated. When we talk about responsibility, it is by default created. When we talk about accountability, it is imposed. When you have delegated the authority, the person who is responsible for doing the job, the responsibility is automatically created, and accountability comes or is being imposed on you as you have been made responsible for completion of any particular task or job. Accountability arises out of responsibility and responsibility arises out of authority. Therefore, it becomes important that with every authority position, an equal and opposite responsibility should be attached. So, when I talk about these three terms, authority, responsibility, and accountability, then we can say that accountability arises from responsibility, responsibility arises from authority, because when a person is made authorized for accomplishment of particular task or job, then at the same time he is also responsible, and at the same time he is also accountable. Accountable means answerable. If a person says that I am only authorized for any particular task, no, it's not done. Authority brings responsibility and responsibility brings accountability. So this is point third. Now, when we talk about another topic, that is centralization and decentralization. Organization can keep their powers in two manners. Number one, centralized at one place. Number two, decentralized, subdivided at various places. As I have talked about delegation of authority in my previous chapter, so I have taken up with centralization and decentralization in the next chapter, because both the things are interrelated. When we talk about centralization, then if I talk in layman language, centralization means that having a central point for everyone. We are having a central point for every work or every job to be done. But if I talk about decentralization, it means that we have subdivided all those work, or we have made sub points for those particular works which were earlier at a central place. So let's move to the definition. Centralization. Centralization means a pivot location or group of managerial personnel for the planning and decision making or taking activities of the organization is known as centralization. When we are having all the decision making power at a center point, when they are assembled, collected, when we have discussions, when we have take decisions at only a central point, then it is known as centralization. In this type of organization, all the important rights and powers are in the hands of top level management. Why? Because we are into centralization. We are talking about an organization which is following centralization. So all the powers are kept with the top level management, and he is the only one who can take decisions, who can give instructions, or who can bring any kind of changes. However, due to the concentration of authority and responsibility, the subordinate employee's role in the organization is diminished. Yes, when you are having all the powers at a center point, then your subordinates will not be having any power and their basic role will be disappeared, or we can say it will be diminished. Because of all the right vested in the head office, therefore, the junior staff is only to follow the commands of the top managers and functions accordingly. They are not allowed to take an active part in the decision making purposes, right? Because all the decisions are taken at the top level, or we can say at a central point. So the persons who are laying below them, they are totally disappeared, because they does not come into picture while taking in decisions. All the decisions will be taken at the top level. So the role of your junior or subordinates or middle level is totally absent. They does not have to perform any task in decision making, or we can say they are not having any kind of decision making power, because all the power vests in the center point. Sometimes hodgepodge is created due to excess workload, which results in hasty decisions. Bureaucracy and red tape are also one of the disadvantages of centralization. Very correct. Because when all the things lies at a central point, so things can become topsy-turvy. We can have problems, we can have haphazard, we can have hasty decisions, because we have only one central point is there to take all the decisions. So sometimes they will be taking decisions in a hurry up manner, and those decisions, it's not compulsory that they are correct and right decisions, because things done in a hasty manner are not always correct. So this is one of the disadvantages of centralization. Another disadvantage, bureaucracy and red tape can exist, because things are lying at a very only one single central point. So all the policies, rules, guidelines, procedures are made from that particular point only. No one is there to discuss. We are not having anyone to discuss about the things. We are not having any other person to participate. All the things are done at the central point. So these things can exist, and they can become the disadvantages of centralization. Moving to next, decentralization. As the word itself speaks, decentralization. When we have divided or subdivided the things into various sub-points, then that particular setup is known as decentralization. The assignment of authorities and responsibilities by the top level management to the middle level or lower level management is known as decentralization. In this type of setup, middle level management and lower level management are authorized that they can take the decisions which are required at their own level. They don't have to approach top level always. Always they don't have to approach top level. They are authorized that they can take those small decisions which are required at their level to be taken. Otherwise, they will be delaying their work. It is the perfect opposite of decentralization, in which the decision-making powers are delegated to the departmental, divisional unit or central level managers. Organization-wide decentralization can also be said as an addition to delegation of authority. We can also say, as we have discussed the topic earlier, delegation of authority. In that, what we are doing, we are delegating our authority to our subordinates or to middle level or lower level. So in the same manner, decentralization, we can say that it is a wider aspect of delegation of authority only, or we can say an add-on into delegation of authority when done at large enterprise level, organizational level, it is known as decentralization. When done at departmental level, then we can say it is known as delegation of authority. At present, due to the increase in competition, managers take the decision regarding for the delegation of authority to the subordinates, due to which the functional level managers get a chance to perform better, as well as freedom of work is also there. Yes, when the authorities are delegated or when the things are decentralized, then your middle level managers are also free that they can take the decisions, because sometimes taking the decisions at top level or centralized level delays the thing. So to avoid that delay, if we decentralize the thing, then managers also have a feel of freedom and they can take the decisions at their own level also. Moreover, they share the responsibility of the high-level managers, which results in quick decision-making and saving of time. It is a very effective process for the expansion of the business organization, like for mergers and acquisition. When an enterprise is planning for any kind of merger or acquisition, then decentralization can work as a boon for them. It can also give them free from various types of worries. It can make them relax also, because when the things which are being centralized at a single point, at a central point, they are decentralized with other managers also, and now they are also liable, or they are also authorized to make decisions. Then things become more easier, wastage of time is totally eliminated, and delays in decision making is totally eliminated. When we are merging or we are acquiring another enterprise within us, then this thing works perfectly. Although decentralization lacks leadership and coordination, which leads to inefficient control over the organization, for an effective decentralization process, open and free communication in the organization must be there. Yes, it can happen. Sometimes we can lack control. Sometimes we can have problem of passing instructions or passing orders. So to avoid this problem, or to make this thing more easy, what we should do, we should have a proper channel of communication. A channel of communication which can give proper instructions, which can receive proper order from top level, and messages from lower level should also be passed to the top level. This will be helping us to know about that whether is an organization is performing well or not. So decentralization is again a type of method or setup in an organization where things are subdivided and other peoples are also having the right to take decisions. Thank you.